Odds of a major blizzard increasing for next week with a dynamic system this weekend, bringing significant snow, ice, and a severe weather outbreak. Yeah, folks, we've got it all on the table. Hopefully we're having an all right Friday out there. A lot to discuss in today's video. Again, from big storm this weekend to a potentially even bigger storm next week. I think a lot of folks are really going to start to feel it here by the time we get into tomorrow and then through Sunday. And then again, by the time we start getting into next Wednesday or Thursday, that potential for a major nor'easter now increasing. Now, we're going to go over all the data in today's video, but before we do, if you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, and hit the bell for the latest notifications. That's a great way to stay up to date. You'll be the first to hear when I have an updated map or updated models with a new breakdown of it. And trust me, we're going to get a lot of new data in over the next couple of days as we track these storm systems, and you'll want to be the one to hear about it first. All right, folks, go ahead, also comment, let me know where you're watching from, what you're seeing out there, and let's dive on into the data. Now, what you see right here next to me, that's our latest European computer model. You can see the loop there. Over the next about 7 days or so, not one, but two major storm systems. The first one really starting this afternoon, but really ramping up tomorrow and Sunday. The second storm system looks to work into the picture by the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday timeframe of next week, and that one has the potential to be the first big blizzard of the winter for millions of Americans. I'll tell you how and why later on in this video. But before we get there, again, we've got active weather right now. We've got that big storm system worked into the West Coast yesterday, now getting into the Rockies, and eventually by tomorrow going to eject from the Rockies and bring big time severe weather potential for many folks down into Dixie Alley, and then big snow potential and ice potential into the Northeast, through the Midwest, and through the Great Lakes. Oh, and did I mention a flooding threat as well through the Ohio Valley? Again, just so much to talk about, and we will definitely cover it all through the video. Now, if you look out west, you can see kind of the center of the storm right now, kind of parked somewhere over Idaho or, in that adjacent area. But the bigger picture, no matter where the center is just a big old field of clouds around it, bringing rain, snow, and a lot of lift. Again, the upper level dynamics with this storm are quite favorable for this one to strengthen pretty significantly over the next day or two. And what we're going to see is kind of a classic transfer of energy by the time we get into tomorrow. That's going to create a new surface low, and that'll really be the start of the action for many of us. Now, our current alerts map, plenty of stuff going on, like we mentioned. Starting out west, all the pink boxes, those are winter storm warnings. The purple boxes, winter weather advisories. Like I said, that storm bringing the snow right now. But as you start to creep eastbound, notice some new advisories. We've got some purple into Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota. Those are winter weather advisories for as early as this afternoon. Going to see a band of snow set up and likely continue into tomorrow. The Northeast wind advisories, winter storm watches, and winter weather advisories for the same storm system. Like I said, we're going to see a potential big time snow and ice concern up there and a wind concern, and you combine those, and I'm starting to get worried about power outages for portions of the Northeast. Now to the south of there, flooding a concern with this first storm system through the Ohio Valley all the way back down into the Tennessee Valley. And if you join us tomorrow, we'll probably be live in the afternoon covering what will likely be a big old yellow box down here suggesting a tornado watch for the potential of strong tornadoes. Again, map filling in quickly, and this is only the first storm. Another big one by the time we get to next week that obviously a lot of you are going to want to hear about. All right, so let's go ahead and break down the kind of setup for the current storm. Like I said, we've got this big trough out west. We'll move it ahead into time. This is this afternoon and evening. You can see that big dip in energy, classic trough out into the west coast. And eventually, this trough is going to begin to tilt negatively as it moves to the east, indicating that it wants to strengthen. So this is tomorrow morning during the afternoon. Still kind of a neutrally tilted trough, even slightly positively maybe tilted. But either way, strong enough for plenty of lift out ahead of it. You can kind of see this ribbon of vorticity through the Ohio Valley. That's heavy rain. This ribbon of vorticity to the north of there through the Midwest and Great Lakes, that's heavy snow. And eventually by the evening, more kind of lift supporting plenty of storms to fire up. So here we go. This is during the evening of Saturday tomorrow. This trough becoming negatively tilted. Like I said, that suggests that it's getting stronger and wants to really kind of increase the strength of that surface low pressure or deepen the pressure values. And you can see this ribbon of vorticity. This is going to create strong storms and heavy rain. And like I said, even some moderate to heavy snowfall rates for some folks depending on where you're at, obviously, come tomorrow evening. Now, during the overnight of Saturday into Sunday, this works through the northeast, gets a big boost in the upper levels, and we've got a negatively tilted trough. That's going to really deepen our surface low from about 1,000 millibars all the way down to the 980s. Cannot rule out the 970s by the time it gets up towards Maine, and that's going to be more than enough energy to create big wind problems and power outage concerns and even visibility concerns. Can't even rule out blizzard-like conditions come Sunday into the interior northeast and up through eastern Canada, through Montreal, Ontario, Quebec, and surrounding areas. All right, that's the setup for the storm. Let's go ahead and get down into the nitty-gritty, the stuff you want to see. This is the latest computer model we have. This is our NAM model doing a pretty good job at showing the storm. And notice as early as this afternoon, time above my head, 7 p.m. Eastern time, and I'll try to vocalize it for you. We've got some snow breaking out through the Twin Cities, back into Wisconsin, Iowa, northern Illinois, potentially into Chicago by the overnight. Could see a little bit of snow and a nice little band of snow. And you can see it kind of increases. This is the overnight getting into about 3 a.m. Eastern, so most of us sleeping at this point, but that big band of snow continuing through Michigan, cranking back up towards Nebraska, into Iowa, the Twin Cities still dealing with some light snow, and to the south, surface low pressure developing out near Kansas, that really increasing our transport of moisture out of the Gulf, and you can see this ribbon of rain setting up through St. Louis, Little Rock. But you go further north into central Illinois and really kind of anywhere in this circled area I have, we're going to be watching the concern for some ice overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. And you can kind of see as we time this out, snow to the north through the Great Lakes, an icy mix zone in between, especially portions of Ohio, I think. Up through northern Indiana, going to get a front-end thumping of some snow, ice, kind of a mix, changing over to ice, and then eventually changing back over to all rain. You can kind of see the process there. And then same thing for the northeast. Much of Pennsylvania, New York, going to start with that thumping of snow, and then changing to ice. Check this out tomorrow afternoon, back down towards the Alleghenies, Shenandoah Valley. Yeah, more ice on the way. Can't catch a break down there. We had a crazy ice storm earlier this week. More ice by tomorrow afternoon and evening. Good news with this one, changing back to rain throughout the duration of the storm. And I'm going to pause it here. This is tomorrow evening. This is when I think we're going to be at kind of we're going to start getting to chaos levels with crazy severe storms and snow. So down south, here's our surface low. Notice we've got this kind of squall line developing along it, and we've got a very potent, moist, warm sector out in front of it. Dew points in the 60s, temperatures in the 60s and 70s. That's more than enough combined with the kinematics or the wind shear. Yeah, we're going to have a big severe weather threat tomorrow afternoon, evening, and even likely into the overnight as this storm cranks up. At the same time that's happening, we're going to have snow up through New York City, Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island, into the Hudson Valley. Eventually, though, changing back over to some kind of sleet, freezing rain, and then all rain. This is by about 10 p.m. You'll notice New York City, Long Island, back to rain. A nice little thumping of snow at the front end. Could drop a quick couple of inches, then changing back to some heavy rain. Also, another area to watch tomorrow evening on the backside of the low pressure. Our kind of cold conveyor, as we call it in meteorology, wrapping around the storm, that could change over some rain to snow into portions of Illinois, into Missouri, Kansas. Do not rule out a quick little thumping of snow. That could overperform. Oftentimes we get these deformation bands on the backside of these systems. It really drops heavy snowfall rates. Now, they're tough to forecast, so this model's showing it. Other models not as much. We'll continue to watch it for you. Then we keep on going, folks. Here we go into the early morning hours of Sunday. Low pressure absolutely cranking up. This model really going heavy on that back end snow through Chicago, Indiana, up through Michigan, through the Northeast, an icy, snowy mess. Ice in Boston, back into Western Mass, Northern Connecticut, the Hudson Valley seeing ice, and then holding on to snow through Vermont, New Hampshire, up into Maine, and then up into the Adirondacks. That changes, though. Keep on going. Also, look at this Sunday morning, feisty squall line back down into the Carolinas through Georgia. I could see a couple embedded tornadoes, strong winds Sunday morning. You got to watch for that. And just everybody's getting something. 985 millibar low parked right over Lake Erie. That's kicking up the winds. That's bringing us back in deformation band snow. Icy, snowy, rainy mess on the front end. And all of that continues into Sunday afternoon. We've got a full-blown ice storm into the interior Northeast, rain along the I-95, back in snow through Michigan. Tell you, Michigan, one of those states that could really cash in on this storm. I'm talking more than a foot of snow, not out of the question for you folks. And all of this, deepening pressure, that's going to blow the wind around. Blizzard-like conditions, still a possibility. Back here into Michigan, up through Ontario, Quebec. Big power outage concern into the interior of the Northeast. We've got the wind, we've got the ice showing up. Just an absolute mess by Sunday afternoon. Keep on going through the evening, folks. It's more of the same. Back end snow, front end ice and rain, depending on your location. You can see that on the map. And looking at a pretty potent little northwest flow event, I think, by overnight Sunday through the West Virginia mountains, up through the Alleghenies, potentially as far south as the Smokies. As this big low pressure cranks up, lake effect snow going to really increase on the back end, and winter's return will be in full swing. That's kind of the timing on it all. Well, how much snow and ice are we expecting? Obviously, that's what you want to know. It's probably what you came here for. Well, this is just kind of the 50th percentile of our models blended together. So this is kind of a middle-of-the-road solution. And the middle-of-the-road solution showing near a foot of snow in Milwaukee, here north of Detroit towards Flint, Saginaw, Grand Rapids in that. Up near Cadillac, Michigan, Alpena, Kalamazoo. Yeah, I think Michigan back towards Milwaukee, gonna get a good amount of snow out of this one. Chicago, gonna be on the edge, just north of the city. I think half a foot in the city itself. Maybe around that as well. Again, it's going to depend on the line. So maybe north of the city, we'll say half a foot to a foot. In the city itself, more ballpark a foot of snow, could be a little less as well. Again, you kind of notice how the gradient gets sharp here. Anywhere along this gradient, that's where the forecast is tough. Toledo, Detroit, Plymouth, South Bend into Joliet, Aurora, Chicago, just the Chicagoland area in general. Tough forecast out of this one, always is, unfortunately. But you go further north, more solid confidence in a big snowstorm. Now, you look at the Northeast, that's another area where we're going to get plenty of big snow. Look at northern Maine, northern Vermont, New Hampshire. Yeah, near a foot of snow. Some of these models showing a foot and a half of snow. I think that's going to be pretty likely here into kind of the St. Lawrence Seaway area, back down into the St. Lawrence River of eastern Canada. If you're watching in that area, kind of in the bullseye for blizzard-like conditions and just a prolonged period of heavy snow. Now you get back down south towards Boston, tougher forecast. Starts as snow, then ice, then rain. When all is said and done, couple of inches of slush probably that's going to be getting melted by that warm air and rain during the end of it. But you go just north of town, up towards Manchester, and back into kind of the Keene area, into Pittsfield. Going to be an icy, snowy mess for most of this. Albany going to see a good amount of ice and snow. Saratoga Springs, same story. Start going further north towards the Adirondacks. A good little winter storm out of this one, around a foot of snow. What about ice? That's another concern. Now, you can kind of see the general field of ice here. Anyone from Kansas City back into Ohio could see a glaze up to 1/10 of an inch. But the biggest ice concerns, I think, going to be here in the east, specifically the interior Northeast. Now, down south, the Shenandoah Valley could see 1/10 of an inch or so of ice. The Alleghenies, 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. Start getting up here into western Mass, into southern New Hampshire, southern Vermont. This is where I'm worried about big power outages and an all-out ice storm. 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of ice, looking pretty likely in here, all the way up into the down east areas of Maine. And like I said, with the wind kicking up as this storm strengthens, power outages will be a real concern come Sunday and into Monday. As the storm's pulling away as well, the winds will really be kicking up. So any ice left on the trees or power lines or snow, and then the wind comes in, yeah, that's going to be a problem. So watching out for power outages. Watching out for power outages in here. Got tongue-tied there in this region. Now, unfortunately, not the only threat here, also a severe weather threat. This for Saturday afternoon and evening. I think during the afternoon hours and kind of the evening, the worst of it through Mississippi, northern Louisiana, portions of Arkansas. We're talking Memphis, Jackson, Meridian, back towards Birmingham, Monroe. During the overnight hours, sneaking into the Atlanta area, Huntsville, Montgomery, Chattanooga. And then even by the time we get into our Sunday, what's left of that system moving through the eastern Carolinas, southern Georgia, southeast Virginia could see a threat for some strong winds and a couple embedded tornadoes. But I think the biggest day, again, Saturday, where we have tornado outbreak potential. Now, that doesn't mean it'll exactly pan out to an outbreak, but the potential is there. And going ahead and giving you the alert for it now. All right, that's the first storm. Crazy enough, right? Obviously something to keep an important eye on, but by the time we get to next week, we're going to be dealing with another potent one that we need to watch out for. I'm going to skip this map actually and go to the next one. So you kind of notice in the weather apps on your phone and on the social medias of the world that people are starting to sound the alarm. And next Wednesday, Thursday, Tuesday, that time frame. The question is it warranted or is it all hype? Obviously, that time of the year where anytime we get one little model run with a big snowstorm, people are going to kind of plaster it all over the place. Well, this one has legs. I'll go ahead and tell you, I think this one could be the real deal. And here's why. Monday afternoon, we've got a pretty classic setup developing. Upper level energy over the north central United States into south central Canada, and a little shortwave working into the Pacific Northwest. As hard as it is to believe, this tiny little piece of energy I have circled up near Washington and Oregon could potentially become a big nor'easter by Wednesday and Thursday. Let's time it out for you, show you the latest models, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty meteorology of it. But starting here with the GFS. We'll start all models. This is Monday evening, so that'll be the time frame that we start at. Here's the GFS. Seeing a little bit of snow kind of breaking out into Kansas, Missouri. This is by Tuesday morning. Even some light snow in the Ohio Valley. Not a big deal up to this point, but then it starts to shift a little bit further south. The Ozarks back into Kentucky, portions of Tennessee seeing a little bit of light snow out of this. Nashville, a quick little hitting winter weather event up through Kentucky, West Virginia. Not a big deal at this point on the model. We've got rain down near the Gulf Coast. Not expecting a repeat of January's craziness along New Orleans through the Florida Panhandle. That's really, again, once in a kind of lifetime event. Not to say it won't happen again in your life, but this one will not be it. I can guarantee you that. Now, we'll keep on moving it ahead. Here's Wednesday morning. Again, still kind of a weak, strung out system, but we've got some light snow in Virginia, North Carolina, surrounding areas. Then you'll notice the surface low begins to strengthen a little bit. We're down to 10, 13 millibars. Still kind of a light event through Virginia. Rain along the I-95 back down from Raleigh south. So not a big deal. And then the storm begins to crank up. Notice along the East Coast, the kind of surface low really deepening. We've got high pressure to the north. We're getting a squeeze play between of cold air. That's changing a lot of this rain over to snow. We've even got some snow in the mountains of North Carolina. And then this rides up the coast and we get kind of a classic nor'easter track. And by Thursday afternoon, we've got a big shield of snow through the entirety of the I-95 from Virginia up through Boston. Heavy rates kind of mixed in. And then the storm pulling away and strengthening even more down to 981 just off of Cape Cod, and a nice looking nor'easter. Now, that's one model. What about the European? Well, we'll time it out starting at the same time, Tuesday morning here. Or I guess we said Monday evening, right? Something like that. Yeah, Monday evening into Tuesday morning. Same thing. Not really, but you get the point. Snow breaking out through Kansas, Missouri into Oklahoma, Arkansas. A little bit of a more pronounced storm early on the European. So you'll notice slightly bigger event through Missouri into Arkansas, back through Tulsa. We've got some ice as far south as Shreveport and into northern Mississippi. Continues working east. Still kind of a light event for Tennessee, Kentucky. And then the storm hits the East Coast. And same thing, starts to amplify. Notice kind of a classic I-85 north looking event in North Carolina. Charlotte on the line of snow and ice. Greenville, Spartanburg close to it. Overnight model runs were a little colder than this. So, we're going to sway back and forth a little bit. And then this cranks up the coastline, folks, and just a big-time nor'easter. Heavy snow in Virginia, up the I-95. We're talking 978 millibars off the coast to the northeast. That's more than enough to bring blizzard conditions for many, and then ramps up the coast and continues. So we've got two models on board. Just to say I did, I'll show you one more. Here's the Canadian model. And we'll kind of breeze through it. Same general starting a little bit further south on the Canadian. Honestly, that's pretty normal for the Canadian. Normally, it's a little too cold compared to other models, but shows the same general idea. Big nor'easter cranking up the coast, works all the way into the northeast, and you get the idea. Same thing as the other models. So what do we know? Well, we know basically all of our major computer models now show a major coastal storm, and it's about peak climatology for one. So, the math checks out here, as I like to say. And here's the setup, and here's why I think this has legs. Here's the European. We'll pick up where we left off right here. Again, this is when we have that northern stream energy. I don't know why I'm putting an H over it. It's low pressure. And then a little short wave back into the PNW. Now, what's going to happen, this northern stream energy is going to kind of park here, but the southern stream energy is going to dive south. And the question will be, when do they link up and exactly how do they link up? That'll be the big key question to answer on how strong this storm will be and who will get the worst of it. The European will kind of move it down south here, really gets that short wave going. And notice right around here, they start to kind of hook up a little bit. That northern stream to the north here, the southern stream down here, starting to get a bit of a connection between the two. They're phasing together. Getting in the Valentine spirit. After all, it is Valentine's Day, so good on the models. And then right here, this is as far out as the 0 or the 6Z run goes, but you see them begin to really get their act together and couple up right down near the southeast. And because of that, if I show you this is the latest European from this morning. So this is newer than the run I just showed you. Just doesn't go quite out as far out, so I can only show you so much. But notice a little bit further south, hooking up a little bit quicker. Because of that, we've got winter weather further south. Greenville, Spartanburg, Lawrence, almost as far south as Columbia, getting a big ice storm, snow up into Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia. We're going to see the shifts in the models, and that's going to be something you're just going to have to prepare for now, because today is, Friday, and this is, a next Wednesday, Thursday event. Plenty of time for this to shift, but the model's really honing in on it happening. GFS upper level map here next to me shows the same thing. Notice they're kind of separated. Here's let me move it ahead a little bit more. This is Wednesday morning of next week. Northern stream energy, southern stream energy. Notice that kind of white between. That means they're not quite connected. That's why the GFS has a bit of a weaker system starting off here, but they do eventually get their act together and kind of come together right around here by overnight Wednesday into Thursday, just in time to ride up the coast. And I mean, folks, this is just a crazy amount of upper level support for a nor'easter. This would really deepen the low pressure. This would create a ton of lift for precipitation, likely snow in this case. Again, it's been plenty cold enough with a look like this. So this is the money shot. If you're living in the Northeast, you want a big nor'easter, this is what you want to see. If you live in the Southeast, this is fine too, but you kind of want what the latest Euro showed and kind of starts this storm to crank up a little bit sooner. The sooner the better for the Southeast. And the Northeast, I think, sitting very pretty right now as well in terms of the timing of these energies coming together. The important thing is most major models show it happening. It shows that phasing of the energy, and that's its own obstacle to get through. All right, so who's going to see the snow? That's the million-dollar question, right? Well, it's a little too soon to tell you exactly who and how much, but we can take a look at the ensembles and give you an idea of who's in the best position right now to see some of that snow. Latest European ensembles, this is the weekend storm. You can see a whole bunch of snow in the Northeast. Here comes next week, a nice little snow signal through Kansas, Missouri, back down into Oklahoma, Arkansas, and then a little bit of a gap. You'll notice here through Kentucky, Tennessee, this is when the energy isn't quite linked up, so you see lower end totals on the ensembles. But as we hit the East Coast, specifically North Carolina northbound, this thing really begins to increase. Kind of a classic I-85 North event on the ensembles. Charlotte, Greensboro, Raleigh, Asheville, even the kind of Highway 11 corridor of upstate South Carolina, maybe even the I-85 corridor of upstate South Carolina. Again, we'll see what happens for you folks down there. I know I've got a lot of viewers in that area, a lot of snow lovers like myself. But then the confidence really increases in the Northeast. I mean, check it out on the Euro, already running a half a foot snowfall mean right along the I-95 from DC all the way up towards Boston at about 6 days away, folks. That's a strong signal for a nor'easter, and one that I think again really has legs, like I mentioned earlier on. So just to kind of give you a quick little recap on it. Highest confidence for nor'easter or blizzard-like conditions in the Northeast going to be right into this corridor. Feeling pretty good somewhere in there's got a good shot. Slightly lower confidence, but still watching for winter weather impacts back down into this area of the I-85 north into upstate South Carolina through North Carolina, and then lower end confidence, but still watching depending on the track in kind of this yellow zone. So you can kind of see highest confidence in the black, kind of medium confidence in the pink there, and then lower confidence, but possibilities for big snow in the yellow. That's kind of what we're looking at right now, given the data. I'll show you one more map, and then we'll let you go. GFS ensembles, same map, snowfall. Here we go, slight signal or pretty good signal back down into Kansas, Missouri. See that gap in it? That's that yellow zone I told you about. And then the signal increases up the East Coast from Charlotte, Raleigh, a little bit of a snow signal, then really ramps up into the Northeast along the I-95. Classic looking nor'easter on the GFS ensembles. Alrighty, folks, that's all I got for you on this Friday morning. Obviously, I'll be back tonight with another update for you. So again, if you haven't already, go ahead, like the video, subscribe, hit the bell for the latest notifications. Helps the video reach more people, helps the channel grow. And we're starting to look ahead at 40,000 subscribers, crossed 36,000 like a day or two ago, already at 36.5K. So, we're trucking along, and very grateful for the growth and hoping to keep it up. Alrighty, folks, y'all have a great one. Stay safe, stay warm, think snow. I'll see you all next time.